So, just quickly, is this the first time this album has been on vinyl, or was it originally released on vinyl?
No, it was originally released on CD and cassette.
But no vinyl.
No.
So I have a copy of it here. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Have you heard it?
Yes, yeah. I was involved in the remastering, and we had to ditch a couple of tracks from the CD.
Right.
There wasn't enough time on the vinyl, so we had to.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was that process like, going back and working on the record again?
Well, it's like a lot of Hello Sailor stuff is tinged with a certain amount of sadness and things. There's Dave and Graham aren't with us anymore, so there's an element of that, of course. But then also revisiting the recordings and the songs and their songwriting, I found just amazing. I think, when we recorded, we were in our 40s, so we'd been going for about 20 years. So plenty of flying hours, and I think Dave in particular, there's some really, I don't know if you've listened, but I think there's some really sort of stellar kind of smart, adult kind of songwriting.
Right. Yeah, for me, I know the record came out in 1994 originally, which was pretty much when I arrived in New Zealand. So it was my introduction to Hello Sailor, pretty much. And I remember Blue Tattoo being a hit on the radio, or New Tattoo rather. And
yeah.
So I was hoping that maybe you would be interested in kind of running over what the original recording sessions were like, and kind of reminiscing, if it's not too sad for you. I mean, it's
no,
painful.
No, not so painful. There's a lot to celebrate and enjoy. So
right.
I'm not going to get too maudlin on you.
Oh, good. I'll have a hanky by my side here in case we need it. But I mean, the band at this point, you hadn't recorded an album since sometime in the 80s. At that point, you had broken up and kind of gotten back together and regurgitated yourself. So what were the discussions and the thoughts leading up to recording this album?
Well, if we just backpedal a couple of years, Dave and his wife Donna were living in Germany for quite a few years around this time, and Dave was teaching English. He had gone back to university as an adult and finished his BA in English, and did one of those teaching English as a second language courses.
Right.
So he was teaching English to German executives, and was his gig. And Graham was, we were sort of gigging. I was doing a lot of stuff with Hammond Gamble, just like as a duo, and sometimes Hammond and Graham and I would put a little band together and do a tour. But one of the things Graham was doing was he was singing with a kind of a covers band called the Anzacs, who did Australasian covers. And I keep in touch with Graham. We'd go, catch up and have a drink or whatever. It was all, there was no animosity or anything like that going on within the band. And he said, I'm doing these gigs and I get up and sing the sailor songs with the Anzacs, and people just go nuts for it. Why don't we, if they want to hear it, why don't we, see if he wants to come back from Europe and we could do a tour. And that's what we did as the Legionnaires, to kind of test the waters before we pushed the old Hello Sailboat out again. So we did a Legionnaires tour in '93, and it went really well. We enjoyed playing together, and then Dave kind of went back to Europe, and we started to think about recording, and started in on that process, and might have even been late '93, and over that summer, '93, '94.
So how did you persuade Dave to come back?
I think he was kind of keen to, and the opportunity to record. Like he was sitting on a batch of songs,
right?
Most of which are on the album. So, I mean, he wasn't really doing any music, and for all of us. It doesn't take too much encouragement if there's an opportunity there to lock yourself in a nice recording studio.
Yeah, and you recorded at York Street, right?
Yes, not there anymore.
I know. I was there a little while ago, just before it went away, and it was still a pretty nice studio, it looked like. Had that great Neve console.
Yes, no, it was a great place to record, and we had Paul Streekstra Engineering, who we'd worked with before. And initially, we had Dave Dobbin was going to produce, and he did produce a couple of tracks. Most noticeably, Never Fade Away. But you can hear him playing on that and singing backing vocals, and he's also singing on New Tattoo. And there's at least one. There's one of the bonus tracks that are part of the sort of digital release. There are about 11, I think, bonus tracks, plus the 2 that aren't included on the vinyl.
Right.
And I can think of a couple there where you can hear DD contributing, singing and playing guitar and stuff.
So
but
at
then
this point,
he got.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. And but then Dave had a big rush of creativity and said, "Look, I'm sorry, but I've just got to go and do this," And he recorded an album that was released as Twist.
Right, that was a biggie. So lucky you got it out of him.
Yeah, and so Stuart Pearce, who'd played keyboards for us for a long time and has a lot of production experience. He'd worked with Cantuta and produced their album. In fact, he produced Poirier, that sort of iconic Kiwi song, with some in Te Reo, probably one of the first sort of Te Reo hits, maybe. But so Stuart, we were confident in his production, and he said, "Look, I just love to do this." He loved the band, and so Stuart kind of finished it off. And as always, Dave and I contributed quite a lot. It was a collaborative kind of exercise. But
well, that's kind of what I wanted to ask you about, because I mean, the band is unique in the fact that there's 3 of you who are all singing and writing and playing, and there must be a lot of jostling for getting your songs heard and recorded and all that. Was that an issue with the band?
It's never been an issue. I've always been quite happy with my sort of George Harrison slot,
Right, the quiet one.
And Dave, on this album, probably more noticeably than things that had preceded it, Dave got Graham to sing his song. So, Never Fade Away, Please Tease Me, that I can think of, and maybe Raging with the Soul. So there are several Dave compositions, because we always liked the idea of Graham being the voice of the band. We thought it was a strength to have Dave and myself as alternative voices, but not to the point where it all became blurred. Graham was our guy, and taking care of show business, and he had such a he was a great to work with as an entertainer, and he had a monster sort of voice on him and everything, and so that was sort of the real start of that. And Graham was only too happy to do it too, and maybe when we were younger, maybe not, maybe the egos are a little bit more sensitive or prickly when you're younger. But by the time we were in our 40s, we were true men, if you like, family men, and what was best for the song and for the recording and the band was what was guiding us. So that was great.
Yeah. So how was the recording process a happy process? Was everybody kind of chucking in and doing their thing, or? Yeah,
it was great. York Street is we took it over, so we had it sort of spruiked up a little bit. We took beach umbrellas and stuff in there and made it our own. Little, like we had a acoustic corner where we had everything set up with, because I play mandolin and we all play acoustic guitar. So we had, acoustic corner, and then we had like an amp set up and keyboards and stuff. And the luxury of being able to walk in every day and not have to sound check and mess around. We did all that prior, and so it was it's a luxury to record like that.
So how long did the process take to get the record recorded?
Good question. I think it was several weeks anyway. Yeah.
It's not too bad.
Like over a month, I think.
Yep.
Maybe 4 to 6 weeks.
And the record kicks off with New Tattoo, which became a pretty big hit. Did you guys know that you had something there right away?
Well, I remember Graham. I remember seeing Graham play it solo live, probably a year or something before that. And those of us that knew him, and we weren't working together at the time. I think it was in the corner bar at the Glue Pot, and Hammond and I were playing, and Graham was sort of there solo. And there was a few of us thought, oh, Graham's got a cool, new song. So I don't know if any artist really knows whether they're sitting on a hit or not. Maybe. Yeah. But we enjoyed playing it, and of course we'd played it live a little bit, so that's one way of gauging, how audiences react to a song live is a bit of an indication.
Yeah. Now, these days, no one thinks twice about a 75-year-old Mick Jagger prancing around on stage, if he can. But back in the mid-'90s, it wasn't quite that accepted that, you mentioned you guys are in your 40s at this point. Were you concerned that nobody was going to pay any attention to you, that you were kind of over the hill at that point?
Well, we started thinking about that when we were still in our 20s. In our late 20s, we used to call ourselves poor old bastards. So, I don't, maybe, but I mean, we'd done that Legionnaires tour a couple of years prior, and that had been pretty successful, like in terms of audience size and things. So we felt there was still an audience there. And of course, you kind of take your audience with you too.
Yeah.
And I don't know how old you are, Marty, but
I'm old.
There's a few more years of kind of, ticked around the clock since then. And, my kids are, our eldest daughter's 45 and her husband's, 46. So they've got heaps of energy, They cycle, run, swim, do all that stuff. And,
Yes, well, I think 60 is the new 40.
That's right. Well, what's 70 then?
I don't know.
The new 50.
Whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what people want. But certainly, I do think experience. I mean, I've been to see some mature artists, you might say, recently international acts that might be in their, 50s, 60s or 70s. And I don't think they've lost too much. In fact, I went to Paul McCartney, for instance, and sure, the top of his register isn't quite what it was, but hearing a 70-something-year-old sing Yesterday seems, a lot more.
And let's face it, with a guy like McCartney,
makes more sense.
Fills in the rest of this stuff that he can't hit anyway. You've heard it so often. You're just filling in the blanks.
I thought his voice was strong, and he did. I don't know what it was. I don't know if you went. Was it like 2.5 hours without a break or something? Yeah. And sang every song.
Yep.
And so who knows? And of course, his audience, like us, were there with him, but also a lot of young people.
Yeah. Now, once the album came out and you realized you had a hit on your hands, did you guys plan on that happening? Did you have a plan going forward, touring and blah blah blah?
Yes, we'd planned an album tour. We toured that summer, and it was called The Album Tour.
Right.
And that ended with a pretty good slot at Mountain Rock, I think it might have been at the time, down in wherever that was, Manawatu, Wairarapa, maybe. So we went down to, as far as I know, we played Hawea. I can't remember if we played Queenstown, but it was a national tour. In fact, it started up here, Boxing Day, on Urapukapuka Island, which is just out that window there near me in the Bow Islands.
And there's one song on the album, at least on the vinyl, that's co-written by you and Graham, Black Dreams. So
yes.
How did that come about?
Well, Graham had a song called Black Dreams, and I had a song called, God, I can't remember what it was called now. But I had a song as well, which is essentially that sort of the chorus. And his song didn't really, it was like a verse, chorus, and we were just sort of jamming around. And prior to Dave coming back from Europe, actually, I used to go around to Graham's place and we just used to run songs past each other on acoustic guitar, have a few beers and stuff. And in that process, he played Black Dreams, and I said, "Oh, well, what about this? You could have the chorus from the song of mine." And he liked it, and it kind of worked. That part that goes "Photographs in the Rain," that part there, if you know what I mean, if you want to call that the chorus. So, I mean, that's how it happened, and
right.
He kept some of the lyrics from my song, but wrote most of, he already had them for his song.
Very good. Now, what did you have a part in getting the reissue made and pressed up and all that? Did you have a very hands-on approach? Or?
Well, yes, a bit of a control freak. But I mean, initially, I was approached by Holiday Records, and they said, would you be interested in us releasing one of your albums on vinyl? And so I had to think about it and talked to a couple of people and decided that the album would be good.
Right.
And, I sent them some tracks and they had a listen. Oh, in fact, I sent them a CD and they had a listen and said, "Oh, yes, we'd love to." And then at the same time started talking to Jeffrey at Southbound about doing a digital release as well, because
right.
It hadn't really been available digitally. Some of the tracks were, because they were on a kind of a compilation album, but not the album in its entirety, and certainly not the kind of bonus tracks.
Yeah. And so liner notes and all that, did you have much to do with that?
I transcribed a lot of them. I learned to use the talking function on.
Oh, really?
Well, because I was typing out all the lyrics and everything. I didn't, because it was a little bit kind of pre-digital 95,
Yeah.
I think I had a computer, but anything I might have had it probably on some sort of floppy disk box somewhere. So yeah, I did that, and I kind of loved that, actually, because it got me really close to the lyrics.
Right. Very cool.
I admired my chums, $1 million hand and a $6 glove and things like that. I think that's sort of typical Graham.
Very good.
But there's some great lines there.
Now, with the album coming out on Record Store Day, are there any plans to further promote it? Any live things you thinking about doing, or?
Well, those of us that are left in the band, the remnants, as we call ourselves.
Yes.
We do have some shows, but it's not specifically to promote the album. I mean, it's been a difficult year anyway to plan live things.
Yeah,
and,
that's for sure.
So I think we'll get it out, and hopefully, the little profile that you're giving it, and maybe some other people, and it'll give us something we can start selling them at gigs and things like that. So, and I think Holiday have a fairly dedicated following, and Jeffrey at Southbound is, I think, getting it. He's got quite a lot of interest from vinyl stores,
Exactly. Well, it sounds good on vinyl. I was just playing it a little while ago on my turntable. So, yeah.
The band was always very pleased and proud of the recording. Like we we thought it sounded good. We thought the songs were good, and the playing, you know, we felt good about it. I'm really pleased that it's coming out, and I'm sure Dave and Graham would be too.
I'm sure they would be. All righty. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for taking time to talk to me about it. It's fantastic hearing it again. Brings me right back to when I first came to New Zealand. So it's that
Excellent.
kind of thing.
All right. Well, thanks for caring, Marty. It's people like you.
That's easy.
You know, yeah.
All right. Good luck with everything.
Okay. Cheers, mate.
See you. Bye-bye.